In the dusty, sun-scorched town of Perdition, the Clanton gang reigned supreme. Led by the ruthless Ike Clanton, they were a plague upon the land, their laughter echoing like a death rattle through the saloons and streets. They took what they wanted, from gold dust to human lives, and no one dared to stand against them. The law was a joke, the sheriff a puppet on Ike's string. Fear was the only currency that mattered, and the Clantons were rich beyond measure. The townsfolk walked with their heads down, their spirits broken, praying for a salvation that seemed like a distant dream. Every sunset painted the sky in hues of blood and despair, a fitting backdrop for a town held captive. One blistering afternoon, a figure emerged from the shimmering heat haze of the desert. He was a stranger, draped in black, his face obscured by the wide brim of his hat. He rode a pale horse, and his silence was more profound than the desert's own. He didn't speak, not a single word. He simply dismounted, tied his horse, and walked into the saloon, the hub of the Clantons' power. Every eye was on him. The usual boisterous noise died down to a tense whisper. Ike Clanton, sitting at his usual table surrounded by his thugs, watched the stranger with a smirk. Another fool come to die. The stranger walked to the bar and gestured for a water. As the bartender nervously poured, one of Ike's men, a brute named Curly Bill, decided to have some fun. He swaggered over, bumping the stranger hard. The stranger didn't flinch. He just turned his head slowly, his eyes dark and cold as a grave, meeting Curly Bill's. There was no fear in them, only a chilling emptiness. Curly Bill laughed. "What's the matter, cat, got your tongue?" He reached for the stranger's hat, a fatal mistake. In a blur of motion too fast to follow, the stranger's hand shot out, grabbing Curly Bill's wrist. A sickening crack echoed through the saloon. Curly Bill screamed, clutching his broken arm. The saloon erupted. Guns were drawn, but the stranger was a phantom. He moved through the chaos like a vengeful spirit. He didn't use a gun, not yet. His hands, his feet, the environment itself, they were his weapons. A chair leg became a club, a whiskey bottle a projectile. He was a whirlwind of controlled violence, disabling Ike's men with brutal efficiency. One by one, they fell, groaning in pain, their bravado shattered. The stranger moved with a purpose that was terrifying to behold. He wasn't just fighting, he was dismantling them piece by piece. Ike Clanton watched, his smirk replaced by a scowl of disbelief. He had never seen anything like it. This wasn't a drunk cowboy or a wannabe hero. This was something else entirely. As his last man hit the floor, the saloon fell into a dead silence, broken only by the whimpers of the injured. The stranger stood in the center of the room, untouched, his gaze finally locking onto Ike. For the first time in years, Ike Clanton felt a sliver of fear. He kicked his chair back and drew his prize Colt revolver, the one that had ended so many lives. "You've made a big mistake, stranger," Ike snarled. The stranger just stood there, his silence a deafening challenge. He still hadn't spoken a word. He simply reached down and slowly, deliberately pulled his duster aside, revealing the gun belt at his hip. The handle of his revolver was worn smooth, the wood dark and stained. It was the gun of a man who knew how to use it. A story was etched into its worn grip, a story of loss and pain. The townsfolk, peering through the saloon doors, held their breath. This was it, the final showdown, the unstoppable force against the immovable object. The air crackled with tension. It was the moment Perdition had been waiting for. A duel between a tyrant who spoke in threats and a ghost who spoke only in actions. Ike, overconfident and enraged, fired first. His shot went wide, splintering the bar behind the stranger, but the stranger hadn't moved. He let Ike fire again and again. Each bullet missed its mark. It was as if the bullets themselves were afraid of him. After Ike's third shot, the stranger's hand moved. It wasn't just fast, it was supernatural. A single flash of fire, a single thunderous boom. Ike Clanton froze, a look of shocked surprise on his face. He looked down at the dark spreading stain on his chest, then back at the stranger. He opened his mouth to speak, perhaps to curse, perhaps to beg, but only a gurgle escaped. He crashed to the floor, dead. The silence that followed was absolute. Then a collective sigh of relief swept through the onlookers. The reign of terror was over. The stranger holstered his weapon, his face still an unreadable mask. He turned and walked out of the saloon, not even glancing at the carnage he had wrought. As he mounted his pale horse, the sheriff, finally finding a sliver of courage, rushed out. "Wait! Who are you?" he stammered. The stranger paused. He slowly turned his head, and for the first time a single word escaped his lips, raspy from disuse but clear as a funeral bell. "Justice." Then he spurred his horse and rode back into the desert from whence he came, disappearing into the heat haze as mysteriously as he had arrived. The town of Perdition was reborn. The people, freed from the grip of fear, began to rebuild their lives. They never saw the silent stranger again, but his legend lived on. They told the story to their children and their children's children, the tale of the ghost on a pale horse, the man who brought justice to a town that had forgotten its meaning. He wasn't a hero in a shining suit of armor. He was a dark avenger, a necessary storm that cleansed the land. And though his name was never known, his single act of brutal, silent revenge echoed through the canyons of the West forever, a reminder that even in the darkest of places, a single determined soul can make all the difference. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story of raw Western justice, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more tales from the Wild West. We've got a lot more stories of legendary outlaws, unsung heroes, and epic showdowns coming your way. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Who's your favorite Western character of all time? Let us know. Until next time, stay safe and keep the spirit of the West alive.